Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another webinar from Net at Work. Today, the topic at hand is what's new in Sage 300, do more with less in 2022. One of the things that we do every year is we do a What's New series, and one of the things we haven't highlighted in a number of years is really focusing in on the third-party products where they've had a number of innovations, and so this is what today is about. We're going to look at some third-party products. I'll touch on a little bit on Sage 300 itself, but we're going to focus on some really cool things that have been added into the ecosystem of Sage 300, and I've got some great guests here to help me do that as long as I can progress the slide forward. So a little bit of details. Expect it'll last 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of questions that you have. Feel free to ask those questions. It makes the session a lot more interesting, and you get a lot more out of it if you ask those questions. So use the question box within the GoToWebinar panel and ask your questions there. I'll be monitoring those, and we'll interrupt the speakers if appropriate. Otherwise, we'll have a Q&A at the end of the session. As always, our goal here at Net at Work is to help you unleash the power of your business through the power of technology, and we do that by partnering with a number of vendors, by specializing in various areas of your business, or whether it's payment processing, or whether it's doc management, or whether it's BI and analytics, and everything you see around the outside spheres. We're here to kind of help you. So if you've got challenges in any of these areas, reach out to me, reach out to your account manager, reach out to your consultant. Let's have a conversation and figure out how we can help you have the technology improve your business and your bottom line. So that being said, my name is Sean Fleming. I'm a solution engineer here with Net at Work. I've got three great presenters with me. I've got Robert Lavery from Robert Lavery & Associates, and I've also got Nancy Lavery from Robert Lavery & Associates. And excuse me, I've got Scott, pronounce your last name for me because I'm about to choke. Parlejean. Sorry. And for those of you who haven't figured it out, I'm struggling with a little bit of a cold today, so I apologize for that. I want to start the session today with one of the challenges that a lot of folks have, and that's just dealing with collections, dealing with how do you collect AR. And we've got an exciting new product. I'm actually going to play a video because the video does it more justice than we can do in the time frame that the video would take. So I'm going to go ahead and share this video out, and it goes over and highlights the Tyrox collections for Sage 300. So I'm going to go ahead and play that.
This video provides a quick look at Tyrox Collections, a full-featured, value-priced collections module designed exclusively for Sage 300. Tyrox Collections is fully integrated with Sage 300. It runs on the Sage 300 desktop as a native Sage module. It's easy to install and activate. It fully supports Sage 300's multiple contacts features. It sends emails to update users' calendars with assigned cases and tasks. And its collection features let you email payment due alerts to customers, track overdue invoices, disputed invoices, and promised payments, send aging period specific payment reminder emails for overdue invoices, and generate collection phone call tasks to follow up on overdue accounts. Tyrox Collections provides fast access to all customer data. For example, with the Smart Finder, you just enter Ron and loss to look up Ronald Black in Los Angeles. Then drill down to all customer details. Use tabs to see all customer contacts, documents, cases, notes, and communications. Click the Address Lookup button to view customer addresses on Google Maps. Click the Email Address buttons to send emails to customers. Drill down to all customer information, to AR customer options, and to all collection data. You can also click the Send Documents button to resend past orders, invoices, and receipts to one or more customer contacts. Tyrox Collections provides tasks for user or customer-related activities. Tasks include a due date and a revisit date so they appear on employees' dashboards. System-generated collection call tasks include overdue invoice summaries and a communication button for you to quickly document the results of a collection call. Cases let you track issues. Tyrox Collections provides 4 types of cases: collection, support, appointment, and other. Cases are assigned to users and appear on users' dashboards according to the revisit date. The Collections dashboard shows you what you need to do today. It includes all cases, tasks, overdue invoices, disputed invoices, and promised payments that have a revisit date and time for the current day, week, or month. You can view your own assignments or view all assignments that you have permission to view. Double-click to drill down to all item information, or click the Company Name column heading to view customer information. Let's see more collections features. Tyrox Collections Customer Aging screen quickly shows you which accounts are overdue and require attention. You can change aging periods, choose customer groups, exclude invoices that are in dispute, and set a threshold for displaying overdue invoices. The program also flags companies with open cases, disputed invoices, promised payments, and unapplied credit. And you can drill down to all customer and collections information and add new cases, disputed invoices, promised payments, or invoice notes on the spot. Disputed invoices lets you track disputes until they're resolved. You create one record for each disputed invoice, assign it to an employee, add notes to track the dispute, set revisit dates to check milestones, and set the status to closed when the dispute is resolved. Tracked invoices are all invoices with attached notes or documents. You can see all tracked invoices here in the Tracked Invoices grid. Promised payments let you document and track payment agreements for overdue invoices. You can assign promised payments to specific users and view them on the dashboard, along with cases, tasks, overdue invoices, and disputed invoices. The Overdue Invoices program lets you track all overdue invoices. Click the Invoice Number column heading to drill down to the original invoice information. Double-click the invoice entry to put payment reminders for invoices on hold. Add notes and attachments to any invoice, and assign invoices to users for follow-up. Click the Update button to refresh the aging and payment status for all invoices. Click the Process Overdue Payment Reminders button, or use the Payment Reminders icon on the desktop to send reminder emails to customers and generate phone call tasks for following up on overdue accounts. The program displays pending overdue customer accounts and the current default collections action for each one, either send email or create task. You can then select customers for processing, optionally change processing actions, click Create Overdue Payment Reminders to continue, select email options, assign task users and task revisit dates, and then click the Process button to send the reminder emails and generate phone call tasks. The program includes a log file so you can quickly see the results of each mailout. And you can drill down to display emails sent to each customer. The Payment Due Alerts program encourages early payment of customer invoices by sending payment due emails to customer contacts before their invoices are due. Payment due emails list all unpaid but not overdue customer invoices in each email. The program lets you attach invoices as PDF files and sends emails to multiple company contacts. Sent emails are kept by the Collections module as communications. I want to quickly show you one more feature. Tyrox Collections generates ICS files when employees add or change revisit dates and user assignments for cases and tasks, and sends them to the email 1 address entered in Sage 300 for the newly assigned or newly unassigned users. For example, if we add a new task for user Keith, Tyrox Collections will email Keith a new calendar event, like this, which he can then save to his calendar. The ICS calendar files contain the revisit details for cases and tasks. That concludes our look at Tyrox Collections for Sage 300. For more information, please visit the Tyrox website at www.tyrox.com.
And you should have control. Rob, are you there? You muted?
Thank you very much, Sean, and
Yep.
just want to welcome everyone again to this webinar. We just saw a nice overview of the AR collections, and we want to show you a tool that allows you to take a look at AP for your payments, as well as other information in a quick and easy interface we call Info Explorer, which creates dashboards and selects information from the Sage 300 database, taking it out of the accounting system into a multi-dimensional OLAP data cube so that you can filter and format the data based on your analysis or reporting needs, rather than having to create multiple custom crystal reports. So when we're looking at something as simple as an outstanding AP invoice listing, depending on who you are in the organization, this might be sufficient for your collection purposes or payment purposes rather. But someone else might come along and say, I don't need to see the individual invoice detail. I only want to see it by vendor group. So by using the Info Explorer tool, we simply grab the vendor group dimension, and then we can summarize by collapsing the rows of the individual details by vendor and invoice, and quickly go from individual document detail to summary information on our outstanding payables at a vendor group level. So just by collapsing and expanding rows and columns within the grid, we're able to quickly identify our trends for payables by vendor group. But then someone else comes along and says, I do want to see the vendor details, but I only want to see them at a certain dollar value threshold. So rather than just formatting and filtering the existing data, I want to put a pre-filter on the data where I can specify a condition, such as all or some of these conditions can be true. So let's say all the conditions must be true. And then I want to say I'm looking at only amounts due that are greater than or equal to a certain dollar amount. And let's say that's $500. And then the screen in my desktop immediately filters the data that I'm looking at for amount due greater than $500. And if I like this view and I want to keep it, then I would simply right click and copy that view and then rename it to say that this is really my AP outstanding transactions that are greater than $500. And now I've created a new view without having to create a separate crystal report template or dump data into Excel. And then I come back to my original cube and I remove the filter, so I get back to my original extraction of all the AP invoice details, but I still have my AP outstanding transactions greater than $500. And then if I wanted to graph that information, I would create a chart And there are multiple options to choose from, but the system typically chooses the most appropriate view of the chart based on the data. And this is my AP outstanding trans greater than $500. And I now add a new graph to my desktop. And if I want to expand my dashboard, instead of 2 by 2, maybe I want 2 by 3, I can simply grab the new filtered cube and the new graph and create a new dashboard. And every time I refresh the data from Sage 300, if I'm connected to the Sage 300 back office, it will update the information, including all the graphs on my dashboard. So you could actually run a scheduled process overnight to refresh the data from the cubes and come in the morning and look at your dashboard, and you'd be monitoring the network metrics around AP invoices. Now you can do this against any of the modules within Sage 300 or a combination of modules across multiple companies. But instead of just formatting and filtering data, you can also add formulas. So I can do variance calculations for dollar and percent, and I can also format those to create what we call a stoplight system that allows us to identify anomalies in the data. And that is by editing styles, where I can use different colors to define different ranges of numbers and create the rules for each of the data cubes that I'm looking at so that it's easy to spot anomalies within the data. And then I can also drill from the information in the cube back into Sage 300 so that I can see the actual transactions within a Sage 300 context. And so again, in this case, where I'm looking at data on one fiscal year, I could add the second fiscal year and analyze by period. So if I take period and drag it down, I've got my periods within fiscal 2020, and then onto the right side where I see fiscal 2019. But if I want to do period to period, I simply rotate the axes, and now I can compare my period 1 2020 with my period 1 2019 and analyze the different budget variances by period across years. So you can see the power of an OLAP cube being able to move these dimensions. Where you really see this come into play is where I'm analyzing customer sales and item sales. So let's say I've pulled information from the order entry module. One of the other formulas I can apply is a sales rank, where I'm ranking my item sales. But if I want to put this into the context of item sales by customer, then I would grab the customer dimension, and I now am ranking my sales by item across my customers. So my sales rank has now been modified, showing me my number one customer for this item versus my number one customer for this item. And that's the other powerful aspect of these OLAP tools, is that the calculations that I build in as formulas to the cube will automatically readjust based on the version or the perspective of the data that I'm looking at. So I'm looking at customer sales by item, and someone else comes along and says, I really want to see item sales by customer. In the Crystal world, you need to create a separate Crystal template. In the Excel world, I need to add rows and columns or create a different Excel file. In the OLAP world, I simply rotate the axes. So now I'm looking at item sales by customer, and my sales rank is showing me my number one selling item for this customer versus my number one selling item for this customer. So it's very easy for you to analyze very quickly how you're doing in terms of your item sales versus customer, or customer sales by item. And then you could also incorporate information on salesperson and get an idea of which salesperson is performing the best, not just in terms of total quantity of sales, but how profitable are the sales that that salesperson is making. So again, we have the dashboard capability that allows us to view this information quickly and easily. And as I mentioned, we can see these cubes across individual modules, all the core modules within Sage 300, as well as some of the third-party products like norming fixed assets, maintenance, and other products like the AutoSimpli manufacturing. So that's the quick overview of what's new in terms of OLAP capabilities within Sage 300. I want to move over quickly to a new stock take module for those of you that are dealing with inventory and you've ever wanted to do a cycle count where you don't have to count the full inventory database, but just a subset. Because as you're probably aware, the physical inventory requires you to do a physical count of all items for all locations within IC. But the stock take module that's been recently released allows us to define item cycle count calculation methods based on value rankings or usage rankings. And then those value and usage rankings could be based on individual locations or all locations. So I'm able to choose a subset and create a cycle count group based on my item and location. I can determine which cycle count group I would like that to be a part of. And under the setup options, I can create my value-based ABC cycle count based on a different group and what percentage of my inventory I want that to be to get to my total of 100%. And I can have ranking for my value-based as well as a ranking for my usage-based items. And it will create separate cycle count groups with separate cycle count worksheets for doing the physical counts as a subset of my overall inventory. So it might be high value or usage items, medium value and low value or usage items, and separate your inventory based on that. The other thing we do is we have a complete history report for your inventory counts. This is not available as part of the standard inventory control module, but something that's been added to the stock take module so that you now have an idea of who did the count, when they did the count, and a complete history that you can generate of all the physical counts that have been conducted based on the cycle count criteria that you've set up within stock take. So that's the new stock take module. We just wanted to highlight very briefly for you. As Sean mentioned, we can dig in a little bit deeper in the new year if you want more information or pricing on some of these applications. The last aspect of the presentation that we wanted to show to you today was a spotlight on web screens. A number of you are using the electronic funds transfer for ACH electronic payments or wire payments to your vendors. And Orchid Systems has been a very popular product for EFT because of the COVID pandemic. We've been forced to work remotely and we're having to process payments without people being in the office to sign checks or produce checks. So we just wanted to make you aware that we have recently released the new web screens for EFT so that you can deploy and access these in a browser on an intranet, so that deployment is easy and access to the information is easy. And you can see all of the options that are part of the standard EFT module are also part of the new web screen, where we can choose whether we want to select and create EFT files by one batch or multiple batches, whether we want encryption on the information, whether we use remittance advice passwords to protect the remittance advices that we're emailing to our customers, and when we set up the banks and assign those EFT file types for different kinds of EFT formats. We've also added something called SFTP. I don't know if you can see that in the middle of the screen under output destination. We now support a secure file transfer protocol so that you can generate the EFT file and upload it to your bank's website all in one step. And that will be based on connecting to your bank's host server name. And if they give you a key file, that would be the token to authenticate who you are, so that when you generate the file, it's securely transported up to the bank website. Of course, then you can set up EFT customers for pulling money from customers' accounts or direct debit. You can set up vendors so that you can make payments electronically, and that can be checks, it could be positive pay, it could be wires, it could be PayPal. We have a number of different formats that are supported based on the specification from your financial institution. And then creating the EFT file, as I mentioned, is where we create and generate the file for upload to the bank so that you can process these payments electronically. And then you can either print the remittance advices or you can email those as an attachment to the vendor contacts. And so all of this information including the transaction reports, is now available in the web screens, so you can deploy everything within Sage 300 on the web. If you have any additional questions about EFT processing for ACH electronic funds transfer, we're happy to address those questions as well. Or if you need a presentation on the full-blown application, we're happy to schedule that through your Net@Work account manager. So next up, I'm going to pass it over to Scott, who will demonstrate some additional information for people that are interested in seeing the new features of a tool we call Extender.
Thank you, Rob. All right, so as Rob mentioned, I'm going to talk about this product from Orchid Systems called Extender. So Extender, there's two versions of Extender. There's one we call Configurator and one we call Developer. With Configurator, you get the core of Extender, which is basically ability to send email notifications when certain actions are taken inside of Sage, the ability to set up audit logging, so any fields that you have in Sage 300 that you wanted to audit, you can create an audit log for those. So anytime something is changed, it's going to create a log for you. And there's also the Extender workflow functionality. Now, that's everything that's included with Configurator. And now with Extender Developer, you have all of that, but also you have the ability to add on to your Sage 300 environment. Just like the name Extender implies, you can extend the capabilities of your Sage 300 environment. So what it does is gives you sort of platform to build upon using a scripting language called Python. So what I'm going to demonstrate for you today is how we've used this Python scripting to sort of enhance the basic capabilities of Extender. So the first thing that I want to show you is how we've integrated the Extender workflow functionality that would generally take place all inside of Sage with the e-signing application Adobe Sign. So the first example that we have of that is using an AP invoice batch list. So if I've got an AP invoice batch, I'm just going to create one very quickly here. For my customer 1200, we'll just put one entry into here. And we'll just add that one entry to the batch just to give you an example. Of course, document number. So we'll add that in. And then how the Extender workflow functionality works is that when there is an action, so something is changed in the batch, in our case, it's going to be setting it ready to post. That's when the Extender is going to kick in and it's going to say, okay, in order to set this ready to post, this is going to require approval. So these approvers are set in Extender by you. You can choose whoever you want. And as we see it working in the background, it's actually communicating with Adobe Sign now. It's creating the Adobe Sign agreement. And they'll tell you approval required to set batch ready to post. Approvers have been notified. And the approvers have been notified by Adobe Sign themselves. So they would have received an email. We can imagine that this email doesn't exist because I am the person sending as well as receiving the email. They would receive this one, Scott Blarjon, yours signature is required. All they would have to do is go into Adobe, into their email, click review and sign, and it's going to open up their Adobe Sign agreement. Now, all the agreement is we've generated your AP batch listing report from Sage 300. So it would look however your batch list report looks in your own environment. I just have the standard one here. So you're going to get all of the information that you require in order to look at and review and approve this batch. Now you can also have multiple approvers on the batch. So I'll just sign the first one here. And that's actually, you don't need Sage to come in to this process at any point in the middle of it, because Adobe will actually take care of everything. So as the first person, I've already signed and I've submitted it to Adobe. And then I will receive a second email as the second approver who just has to do the exact same thing. They would go in, they would review the document as needed, and then you can see the first signature there. They would come in and they would sign theirs as well. Let's just say SB. And once I apply and click to sign, now in terms of Adobe, this agreement is already signed. I'm just going to go in here, get rid of all of these for aesthetic purposes. And then when I come back into Sage, I'm going to run what we call the remote action poller. So it's the remote action service that comes along with Extender that is actually reaching out to this outside world to Adobe Sign. And I'm going to run this poller. Now I'm doing this manually, but generally remote action would come packaged with another Orchid product that is called Process Scheduler. And that you can have this poller run daily, hourly, every 15 minutes, whatever is necessary for you. So that at any point when the poller is run, it's going to look out to Adobe Sign and see if any of these agreements have been signed. So in this case, we had the one agreement that was approved. So one approval applied successfully. You saw actually before this even popped up that the batch was posted automatically. So that's the end of the workflow there. And you can go back into your batch list here and see that this batch, the one that we just created, has been posted. And as a little extra feature in the workflow for this, we've also included an action where in order to keep track of your audit trail and the actual signed document, we automatically download from Adobe that exact audit trail from Adobe and the signed document. So you'll see it in this little window here, which is another Orchid product. It's called Document Management Link, basically giving you a view to any supporting documentation that you may have stored on your network. And so you can go in here, take a look. You can open up the PDF of the signed document, and you can see what the signatures at the bottom, and also the audit trail. So it'll tell you exactly who it was sent to and who signed it. So we've got that as well. Now, the second instance of this Adobe Sign integration that we've done is with OE transactions. So it's basically turning a quote into an actual order in Sage 300. So what you would do is enter your quote into order entry. And once you post it, I'll just create one quickly here. Once you post it, that Adobe Sign agreement is going to be sent out to your customer to approve the quote. And once that approval is done, it'll automatically generate the order inside of Sage 300. So let's say we're ordering 10 of these fluorescent desk lamps, and that's a quote. So as soon as I click post, what's going to happen is as it did in the first one, it's reaching out to Adobe Sign and it's generating that agreement for you. So once it's completed, it's going to notify the user that this requires approval from the customer to sign, and then the customer is going to be sent an email with an Adobe Sign agreement to review and sign, as we saw in the first one. There we go. Quote would be promoted once the customer has signed off on it. Once again, the customer has received these Adobe Sign emails. Just took a second there. And so that they can now log in, check out their Adobe Sign agreement. And what it is, it's just a quotation report, again, generated from Sage. Take a look, and if everything looks good, they can sign this as well. Click apply. So let me click to sign, and that completes the process for them signing for the quote. So again, clear it out here. So now when I go back into Sage, the same process I'm going to run with the poller, which normally, again, is done sort of as an automatic process rather than doing it manually. For demo purposes, I need to do it manually. So running the poller, it's reaching out again to Adobe. It's checking to see if there are any agreements out there that have been signed and need to be brought back into Sage to act upon. So we give it an extra second. Poller will notify us once it's been able to bring in the approval for us. Which it may have already done. With Process Scheduler, it's much nicer. It's running in the background process instead of doing it manually yourself. There it is. So we've got the one approval applied successfully. And this is the Adobe Sign integration that I like a lot more. It's a lot cooler in the fact that it'll actually go into your Sage now, and it's going to generate the order for you. So whoever's put in the order will actually receive an email at this point telling them, okay, this quote has now been promoted to this order. So if we look at order 132, take a look. So now this order has been created in Sage. It's automatically put on hold. That's sort of a feature that I've just put into the workflow just to make sure somebody comes in to check it. You can take it off hold at any point, and you'll see it's automatically download the audit trail and the signed quote as well. And you can see from inside of Sage that it was generated from this quote. Now, I talked about adding on to and extending the features of Sage 300 using Extender. So one of the other things we can do is actually adding custom scripts to, so we can create tables, we can add buttons to screens, we can add fields to screens so you can store extra information. In this case, we've actually added this button here, something that doesn't normally appear on your Sage order entry screen. So it's this print/email button. So when an order is created, we've got a script in here linked to this screen that when you click this button, it's going to automatically generate the order confirmation report, and it's going to send that to your customer as well. So at this point, the script has kicked in. It's actually generating the report, and it's saving it in a certain directory that you've defined. And then it's going to automatically email it to the email related to your AR customer. So email sent to this customer 1200 to this email, which is me. And then they will have this order confirmation as well. So they can take a look just to confirm. So another cool little feature that we've done with Extender. So if I get rid of that, and the other thing is with using DML, it's automatically saving it. So you can then view it from inside of your Sage environment as well. So the last thing I want to touch on is just in another company here. Actually, that is the right one. And it's also using another ORCID product, and it's called the Notes product. And that's part of this information manager suite here that also includes document management link. So with Notes, so let me go into here in my customers. We can sort of create dynamic notes. And what that means is we've used an extender script to sort of give us extra information in this notes thing here, and it'll update automatically. So if let's go to 1200 here, my favorite customer. So you can see you have different extra information here, like the credit limit has changed from 18,500 to 18,000, and it tells you by who and when it was done. And that's going to automatically update for you. So it's not something that you go in and change. So let's change it to 20,000. And if I click save, it's going to tell me that an email was sent. So that's another extender feature where you're automatically sending emails to notify people of things. So it's emailed somebody to notify them that this customer's credit limit has changed. And then it's automatically updated the note to tell you that it was changed from 18,000 to 20,000. Just so you have that sort of extra capability of seeing the things that are happening inside of your Sage 300 environment. And you will see I should go to the same email here. Whoever that you've designated to get this email has been notified as well that this customer's credit limit has changed. So we can do things like that. It's funny with Extender because when we're talking about things that are new with it, it's constantly changing because customers are coming up with new ideas of things that they want to see in their Sage environment. So every time we just develop more and more things. So the last thing I really wanted to show you was it kind of feeds into that dynamic notes thing, but it's something a little bit different. So if you go to any order here, we have our little notes section on the side here, and you've got extra little information here too. Whereas related to the customer and this exact product, it'll tell you the quantity that you've sold to that customer, the net sales, all of this extra information that you may want to have right at your fingertips in your Sage 300 screens. And it'll update automatically when you select a new item. So now for this item, these are basically statistics for that item. So what I really wanted to stress was with Extender, you really whatever you can come up with is kind of what you can do. Generally, I would say if you can't find something that can do it, Extender can probably do it for you. So feeding on that, I will just show you what we have called the Extender Marketplace. So on Orchid.systems, the developer's website, we do have this Extender Marketplace, which you can find in the add-ons here. And this kind of gives you a list of a bunch of the stuff that we've already done using Extender, all of these extra things that we've used the scripting to add on to Sage. And there's a whole number of different things. So you may look in here and you may find something that's already been done that you would like to utilize yourself, or maybe even give you ideas of things that could be done that you've been looking for but couldn't find. So I just wanted to highlight the Extender Marketplace as well for you as a sort of resource to get some ideas, or maybe find something that you actually already need and is already developed for you. So that's kind of the overview of Extender, give you sort of what's new with Sage in terms of extending its capabilities. And I think I'm going to pass it back to Sean now to finish us off here.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. All right, so I just want to reiterate the power of Extender is limitless. It's based on your imagination. We're doing a lot of creative things with Extender. So if you've got anything that you want to create a specific workflow, you want to generate email communications, you want to change the business logic related to Sage because it doesn't work for you, talk to us about it and we'll see what we can do using the Extender tool. So all right, so let's go okay. And just confirm, Robert, Nancy, that you can see my screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So I did want to touch on, kind of what's new in Sage 300 and how do you find out the list of all of the things that's changing. So Sage goes out and obviously does a release every year. So they've released 2022. And just recently, they've released the .1 release on 2022. So if you're ever wondering, how do I find out what is Sage doing? The quickest way to go and do that is to actually go out and to go to a web screen here. You go to help.sage.300.com, and then you'll notice that it's taking you to 2022. If you go to what's new here, it lists everything that they've changed. So in the latest release, in the .1 release, it's literally right hot off the press. Some of the things that they've done is really around job costing or project job costing and adding in job-related documents into AP so you can reference the jobs in AP. They've improved the way that you can print your custom reports. So rather than having it being kind of, I'm going to call it kludgy within the web screens, they've improved that process to give you some options on how you want to print that information out or save the file. So that's been improved. They've added some functionality to the finders and kind of the first, last, and next numbers is there. That's done improvements that have significantly improved. The other thing that they've done, they've done some things with the reminder list and web sign-in. So if you're using recurring tasks, they've incorporated that into the web screens with this release. They've added a few new web screens. One of the ones that was missing within the GL was the GL chart of accounts web screen. Has now been added into the web screen release, which is one of the key slides within the traditional desktop deployment. They've now added that in the web screen. They've added a new AR customer list web screen and then a project job costing screen. There's a number of transactional project and job costing screens that are there. So those have been added, and you can see that they're listed here. Okay, so one of the other things that they added, and they added this in the 2021 dot release, was around the concept of entering negative additional costs in PO. And this is useful. Say you've got a restocking fee and something that you're sending back to a vendor. Previously, you had to do 2 different transactions to account for that. Now you can do that using a negative additional cost in the PO screen. So that functionality is there. So I'm not going to go through all of this. One of the things that I'm most excited about, though, is probably the finders. They finally have kind of caught the finders up to what they are in the desktop environment. So the finders are much improved in the latest release. So if you're ever wondering what's new, go up to help.sage300.com and look there, or go check out the Net at Work website. We've got a recording on all of the what's new stuff that's there, but you can always find it quickly here by version up at the top. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and minimize this back down and see if we've got any questions. Before I do that, I actually have one other thing that I want to hit. So let's do a poll. A lot of the times I do a poll in these sessions, so I'll go ahead and launch this poll. Was there anything that stood out to you that says, oh, well, I want to learn more information about X, Y, or Z? There's some cool things with Extender that we can do. The collections management, there's been a massive gap on collections for Sage for a number of years. So the collections manager is an interesting tool. Separating the stock take is a powerful thing. The document management link is a cool thing. So they're all good stuff, and just people don't know that they're there, and that's why we wanted to highlight them today. I'll let you answer those. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close that down. We still got a few people voting, so go ahead, I'll give it a second. All right, I'll go ahead and close that down. I want to just say, if you've got questions, now is the time to ask them. We've got a great group of people here to help answer those questions. If you think of it later, feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to your account manager, and we're here to help you get answers to these questions on anything you saw today. So I'll give it a second to see if there's any questions in the queue. All right, I want to thank you for attending. And like I said, reach out to me. My email address is here. You can reach out to webinars@network.com. You can reach out to your account manager. We're going to help you figure out how to get the most out of Sage 300. And sometimes a small little add-on can go a long way to making your life easier and more efficient through the use of technology. So with that, appreciate your time today. And I want to thank Robert and Scott and Nancy for their time today in presenting the solutions that they did. So we'll see you on the next webinar, and we'll see you hopefully in the new year. Actually, we're doing the sessions on year end, so get another sessions on year end here coming up in a couple of weeks. If not, we'll see you in the new year. Have a happy new year and happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks very much, Sean. Appreciate it.